Welcome to a special workout training exercising program. Yours truly, Adrian Dragon. We're gonna workout, train, exercise right here in this room, office and temple, while watching some NFL football. We're gonna be watching some NFL while waiting for the eighth. We're in the EST for my team to play the San Francisco 49ers, as always. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and got this red chair. Thank you, my anonymous friend, for bringing this red chair about 3 years ago, maybe 3.5 years ago during COVID. I put it to great use, and I got the dragon flag on it. You know that I acquired in 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. So we're gonna be watching some NFL highlights, for example. Just watching highlights from Sunday's games. You know, we gotta get that rock and rolling. It is Sunday football, the 28th of December. My 49ers already clinched those playoffs, so I'm not gonna put the commentary loud because of course I'm doing the video. So what are we gonna work out with? Well, for food security, we're gonna be working out, training, and exercising with the exactly as we did in the last workout program. And of course, we're going to be working out, training, exercising with the bags. I'm going to be showing what I'm going to put in each bag, to the left hand, to the right hand, in a circular rotation manner, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, for the 63, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. So for food security, for the truckers, the bakers, the nurses, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, we're going to be working out, training, exercising. And myself, my only stress now is financial, you know. My only stress at the moment is financial, but I gotta be grateful, thankful that my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. So we gotta get it on that click and clack. And here it is. We're gonna the red, two bags, one red, one green, perfect for the dancing goddess army and the dragon army. Of course, red and green, respectively, the colors of the DGA and the dragon army. And here it is, some diced carrots. Diced carrots. We got some diced carrots. This is 6 pounds, and it is for vegan. It is Canada. See, product of Canada. Some diced carrots. Product of Canada. Thank you for these diced carrots. We're gonna be starting the New Year's with some food security, so we're gonna be adding this here. See, it is 6 pounds, maybe seven with the water, and of course with the container. And then we have another can. This is sweet whole kernel. This is about a pound, right? Another pound adds with another pound. Then we got mixed vegetables. So we're gonna put it in a circular manner, just like a rocket engine fuel, right? It's gonna look a little bit like a rocket, well, the engine of a rocket, right? So this is beans with pork. Beans with pork. So food security is super important for the coming of our Imperial Republic, of course, and for each individual. It is mixed vegetables here from Canada. Get that Canada tatted up. This Canadian, Quebecer, North American who was born in the United States 3 times, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. 50 states and 13, which we're going to fuse into the Imperial Republic of the 63 via mass public private partnership. Peas. We got peas. And of course, support my dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom as a philosopher, artist, athlete, geopolitical theoretical analyst, and theorist. And we got some of that mushroom sauce. Mushroom sauce. There we go. And what else do we got in the bag to my right hand? This is my right hand, of course. Oh, I love this. It's old-fashioned beans with pork during the holidays. I go crazy on this. And sometimes I put cans and I put that slow cooking. So beans with pork coming into the new year. So we're not going to touch any of this food until the new year 2026. So we're going in with some food security on that. And we got some beef hamburger steak sauce. So this is bag number 1. So this is turned into weights. It's turned into a workout training, symbolizing, of course, the need for food security. So it's got about between 22 25 pounds. You know, it's not that super heavy, but the way you work with it, see the way we're gonna work with it, as you can see there, it's inside. We got those cans roundabout. You know, I'm gonna just light it up to see that. Those are the cans, how they're put. All the cans are there concomitantly in all the sides. See, all the cans are stacked there. So that's how we're gonna drill it, and we're gonna be working out, training, exercising, and that's how we're gonna do with the other bag. This is one bag right here with the other bag parallel. Of course, in the other bag is gonna be the other bag to the left hand. So we're basically gonna do the same thing, and gotta be grateful, thankful. Another big one. This is the green beans. we got, and then we got several, so that's where we're gonna put them around the mouth. So around the big one we're gonna put the smaller ones, and this one has 2 medium ones, 1 big one, and then we got 4 smaller ones of different sizes. So it's basically gonna be as a circle, in a circular manner, just as we would have in a basically a rocket, right? On a rocket engine, at the bottom of the rocket you see the main cylinders and then the other cylinders which fire up. So green beans from Embassy. This is also a product of Canada. Part of Canada. It also goes to the United States. You see their product of Canada, 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 Canada. So this is gonna be put right here in between the same bags, red and green. So I'm gonna put it in a circular manner, red and green bags, and this one I'm gonna put around about it. Since we have 2 medium ones, this is of course black beans. We got black beans. We're gonna put it on the side there, so that's gonna be on the side. Then the other medium-sized one, is gonna be black beans again. I love black beans, white beans, red beans, and yellow beans, black beans, white beans, and red beans, of course, red and black, and this white. And this is a evaporated milk. It's best before day 2024, November 12th, so it should be still good. So I have experience working in the food banks, and I myself, of course, as a recipient of food security, because it has been hard to maintain a long-term employment due to my neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's. And Asperger's is known as HFA. That's a tiny small minority of people, citizens, who have Asperger's. So there we have a cream of mushroom. And there we got the cream of mushroom there intersected, and that's where we're gonna put it around about it to get it left and get it right, and of course get it in the middle, and that's what we're gonna get doing now. And another one, last can, we got cream of mushrooms, and we're gonna be hydrating with some tea. So this is it. So this is the same as the 2 bags, plus the footballs. There we go. So it's the same. Basically, see how it's structured. So in these bags, 2 bags. See, they're roundabout. So this is also between 22 pounds and 25 pounds. This one doesn't. Okay, now I got it in properly because I want it to be stable there, So it's pretty much roundabout this big one. We have the smaller one. So as you can see there, see, that's what it is. So we got all those cans there. So that's basically the cans to work out with. See, we're improvising some weight. So if we are to take this one as well, also I would say between anywhere between, this is a bit heavier. The right one is a bit heavier, so they're kind of equivalent, but I'll say anywhere between 18 25 pounds each, so kind of range. I could weigh them actually, but the way that the bags are, they're not going to stay too stable on the weight, but of course it's enough for me to get some muscle, get some workout with each and every one of them. So, and here we got, I'm going to do a little bit of transfer. Here we got the 2 cups, so we're going to be Holiday Inn. That red and white, north and south, was we're gonna fuse North American complex for the North American civilization. We got some tea, so I'm gonna hydrate before we get in. So it's hot, red and white. For the north, for the south, we're gonna unite, of course. And this is the tea bag. It is from Korea, I believe. I cannot really read it too well, but as you can see, it's berries and goji berries. So it's 2 types of berry. I kind of like it a lot. I kind of like this tea a lot. And, this was donated. Thank you for the donation. And now we're getting a little bit on the hot side. So that's how we're going to get drilling with that and get the shirt off. Auctioning this one. I got it a few years ago, right before I went on the trip. And I'm auctioning it. I wore it a lot, especially I worked out, trained, exercise in this one. So I'm auctioning it for $1 million. It's worn off a lot, but yeah, I had it for at least 7 years, if not more. Right around the time that I went on that trip in 2017 in summer, so that's already some time, Already some time passed. And last but not least, we're gonna be having some romaine lettuce for the energy. So here we go. Let beginning stretch before commencing all your bodily limbs, and this is what we're gonna work out with, and that's what we're gonna get drilling. And let's take a bite. This is romaine lettuce. Oh. And we're gonna rock and roll it, It's gonna be a It'll be a long workout. Get ready for at least 93 minutes, and we got auctioning these socks. Thank you, my anonymous friend, the greatest socks I ever got. Well, two pairs, but I mixed. So I got, this is one pair, but I mixed the two pairs, two of my favorite pairs. I mixed them, see? So that's that drill, and we're gonna get that great iron, grateful thing for my rent paid, electricity bills paid. Gotta salute the truckers on the road, firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, all those involved in the production, distribution of food in the fast food across the 10, the 50, and the 3. And please give some charity. NFL, National Football League, NHL, NBA, NFL. I wish I could get enough. I'm financially stressed, but if I would have had money, I would have went to buy for the whole season, local season, professional women's hockey league, PVHL. I would have went to see Victoire here in Quebec, Canada, Montreal, because I know they expanded and tripled the cheerleader salaries. And please, in 2026, NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB. Please reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9% is what I calculate for it to be affordable for the majority of the population, of which many like myself are financially stressed. But my financial stress is mostly due to this neurological mental divergent condition, which I have. It's called Asperger's. It's basically on the spectrum. It's circa 2013, 2014. Asperger's has merged with what is now known as HFA, high functioning autism. So they're one and the same. So if I use Asperger's, that I'm an Aspie, that is how we categorize or relate to each other. Aspies, I'm an Aspie myself, ASPIE, or that I have HFA, high functioning autism, basically is one and the same thing. Fundamentally, they merged in 2013, 2014. So in certain things, it's a double DD, disorder and disability, but it's not a complete, because it's not a disease. That's where we have to draw the line. Asperger's is not a disease. It is a neurological mental divergent condition, which makes us that we process information differently. So even that myself, I look at sports, and I love dancing is my favorite sport, of course, but I love all sports and fitness, and sports and fitness is one of my main special interests, although maybe from an Aspie perspective, the sports is how I relate with a autistic love for the sports, and I see the dynamics, for example, of the mathematics. See, when I see the passing and the velocity and his defense and offense, I see how they have to pass in time for it to get the ellipse or the straight line or the semicircle for the passer. If they're gonna go run the ball, I kind of see the trajectory and the velocity which they have to go in order to get the first down. So it seems like they got a good first down. What a run there! Wow, that a bulldozer in right there. So that's a good look. It's a 35-3, and I guess Patriots, they're getting on that good plays, and they are a very good season, 12-3. So I like to look at the stats. I like to look at the mathematics, and I'm a 49er. You can see hundreds of my videos of 49ers, and it's go Purdy go 24/7 for the 49ers. Dancing is my favorite sport, but then I love also boxing, gridiron, and I love to sweat. I love exercising, but yours truly is basically an athlete who dances most. I'm the world's greatest living millennial dancing poet who's financially stressed, but I gotta be grateful because my anonymous friend gave me enough money to get this new cell phone, because I damaged mine on the 30th of October when I went, of course, when it was raining. So having that, I damaged it, of course, and I had to get a new one. So I went almost 45 days, 44 days, and about 22 hours without a phone. 44 days and about 22 hours, almost 45. So more than 44 days without a phone. And now I'm back in business about 11 days ago. And I got this phone that I started working out with, operating, because I'm doing this video with a phone, and got to give back my anonymous friend the money because she financed it. If I make $1 million, I'm going to give her half, because she was my friend when I didn't have no money, when I was down and out and broke. Gotta give it like a joke. Gotta spit it through your tunnel. Through the tunnels, gotta fumble. Don't fumble, they're recovered. And I rock and roll. It's a rock and roll geopolitics, sports, and fitness with yours truly, 24/7. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Asperger's, autism, because it's important in my own journey, because it is something that I have not accepted for since about 2015, 2016. Several individuals with experience in the healthcare system have quote unquote semi-officially diagnosed me with Asperger's, also known as HFA, high functioning autism. I never wanted to really accept it because it's a difference, and there's still a lot of work to be done on what is and what is not. Again, it's not a disease, so I don't use the word symptoms, but we have certain strange characteristics and characteristics, strains, and certain behaviors which can be sometimes problematic, and a lot of the problems can be also certain Aspies might end up before a court of law and not know that they've done anything wrong specifically. It has to be explained in a language that's more comprehensive, sometimes more intellectual, in order for us, because ourselves we have a tendency to have above average in language abilities and mathematical abilities which are above average, but we lack in certain social understanding of non-written social norms and non-written social norms and behaviors that are non-written, so sometimes Aspies can breach those laws and it can cause them certain problems, so that it's always a work in progress. I recommend the book Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. That is one of my favorite books on Asperger's. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome, parallel to Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. There's another book called Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. Teaching Asperger's Students Social Skills Through Acting. All There Was a Stage. That one I got to finish before the New Year's because I only read about 45 pages, which is the equivalent of 25% because it has 191 pages. So I'm a quarter in it. There's for me, for personally as an Aspie, that one is not so helpful as Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. So I got to thank my friend for loaning me that book from the library. And I read it, a few chapters of it, and that's why now I'm more able as an Aspie to build bridges. And we have to build bridges, whether we build small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges. Just like when you order coffee or fries, that is what we have to do now to build bridges in the consequences where we have now to be relationships about, where we got to get the dynamics, of course, to be. And those bridges have to be small, medium, or large, or whatever, extra large, where we have the dynamics to consequently be involved in building the bridges. Because just like when you order coffee or fries or pizza, you order them small, medium, large, or extra large. It can be small, medium, large, or extra large. Those four categories, right, are the sizes of the coffee, fries, and pizzas that you might order. So this is the same with us Aspies. Those coffees have to be, of course, ordered in, those bridges have to be built in those sizes, and the dimensions vary from individual to individual, and from individual to individual they vary in, of course, variance, and they can be bigger, smaller, way bigger, and way extra large if you order, right? Because if you have a big appetite for big coffee on a Monday, you might order an extra large coffee instead of a small, medium, or large one. You might order the extra large fries as well, or pizza. If you're a family, you're not going to order the small, the medium, the large, but you're going to order the extra large, right? You're going to buy the extra large ones. So those four categories, that is similarly parallel to what Aspies. We have to build those bridges with you, the neurotypicals, and sometimes it can be tough and difficult, and the more problematic. So our problems lie in the social dynamics. The way we communicate sometimes can be more difficult. It takes some patience, it takes a lot of patience and understanding, because I don't require much support myself. And again, it's not a disability. It's not in certain things, I put in parentheses, it's a DD, double D, disorder, disability. But in other parentheses, when you put it on top, like when you do fractions, divisions, you have the double SS. So in certain things, it is a special skills. So basically, because of the special skills, the disability and the disorder kind of cancels out or balances out with our special strengths, which usually are around those special interests, right? Those special interests. And no, not all Aspies are computer science geniuses. Yes, a disproportionate number are. 1/5, 20% of Aspies are good above average in this computer science, but not all Aspies are mathematical physics genius or genius in computer science. No. But in terms of if you are to evaluate or put a parallel of the population, then vis-a-vis the population of the neurotypical population, then of course you would see that indeed there's a disproportionate number. It's about 11 times. So compared to your population when I say you, I refer to you, the 99% of the neurotypical population, of which you constitute the majority of the population. And I don't know, would not be myself as an Aspie, I wouldn't be that good maybe playing, but as a referee, as a referee, a more different type of technical analysis of developing strategies. Maybe developing strategies, a more, strategies development for defense, offense. That would be an Aspie could be basically a head coach or a defensive, offensive coordinator. Yeah, for a defensive coordinator, that would be, of course, something which we have to be doing on the 7-8, and these are, of course, the ways which we have to interact now with all the civilizational complex, of course, what we got now to be relationships about. So all that the relationships about are, of course, relationships where we have to get. I got a number 44. You saw that play? Okay, so that I saw a little bit of mathematics. See number 4? Oh, he does it. Number 4, he does left or right. See, look at that. Number 44 here. So in my Aspie brain, I noticed some mathematics. See, he does a circle. Another circle. See how he does it, Robinson? See, duck, buck. He turns into a circle. That for me, that is a mathematical way, because Aspie brains sometimes are a mathematical concept. So there's a lot of mathematics that I see in football: velocity, speed, and wow, what a pass. So it's also that part of the Aspie brain which is inclined, like myself, to see the calculations for the velocity, the distance, and of course there's geometry. Geometry is a great part of American football. I mean, all those layers of mathematics are involved: speed, velocity, technique, time management. And for example, if you pass in an ellipsis, it's different than if you pass in a straight line. An ellipsis goes circular, right? Semicircle. So that's also part of my brain now. For example, in this play action, he's gonna pass the ball, fake the ball, and he's going to go run. So now he looks at the trajectory, which is best, and there's a little mathematics of whether he goes straight or stakes it to his left side or right side. There's part of mathematics of how many different opponents will he face. If he goes to the right or to the left, he might face 3 blockers and defenders, or at the other side he might face 4. So he might gain more yards if he goes to the side that has the least defenders. So that's basically my love of football for as an Aspie, as an Aspie, I guess. Maybe because I am more well dancing. Dancing is my favorite sport. As priestess of the goddess, it's always God bless, goddess kiss, the coming of our empire, and I got those trillions of kisses, and it's always for the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the North American Collective, as I believe in reincarnations. I'm also a mystic, so if you want to read one of my favorite poems, it's called Through a Glass Darkly. George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly. George Patton was our U.S. Army general, and of course, Through a Glass Darkly, he discusses his belief in reincarnations, but he didn't mention that he was also born a woman, because in a past life, I was his wife. I was George Patton's wife in a past life, and he was my wife. So we were both husband and wife and husband in different parallel lives 2,600 years ago. So in my previous incarnations, sometimes I was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, a woman, man, a woman. So now you get that 50-50, It kind of balances with me being androgynous, and part of the LGBTQ community and neurodivergent community. My only stress now is really financial. And I got to mention the problem that many Aspies face is that our community is a tiny, small population of the population, right? So in the stadium, there might be less than 1% who are attending. The audience, I don't know how much there's attendance for the Dolphins and the Buccaneers game. There must be in the tens of thousands, because it's close to the playoffs as well. So I want, as the season goes, I wonder which one is the most. I always assume that it depends, right? It varies. Attendance per team. We're gonna check that maybe after. It's some things that it's always pleasure and the calculation of mathematics due to the Aspie brain, which is always involved. Maybe for myself as an Aspie, I don't speak for the whole community, but there's always certain mathematics involved. So the other discussion is that there's a very, very high unemployment rate for Aspies, right? So the problem for Aspies is maintaining long-term employment. So maintaining long-term employment can be problematic, basically because how we are and how we process information, and how we have these difficulties. I have it less and less now. How we have these difficulties in the social sphere and social communications. We might sometimes offend, not because we mean to offend or be direct. Sometimes we're direct, and it could seem that it's offensive or abrasive, but it's not because we want to, And we certainly have compassion and empathy, but it's more by action rather than just a verbal consolation. We might do something for another if we can, if we're in a certain position. So, but the problem for Aspies in our community is, although we're less than 1% of the total population of North American Collective of North America, the unemployment stands at 80%. So think about that. That's 11 times higher than for neurotypical. 80%. So for every one of you who's unemployed, there's 11 Aspies. And I had many, many jobs. It's just keeping them long term that has been very problematic because of how our brain works and functions and how we interact with other human beings and neurotypicals. You, who are the 99% of the population, sometimes can seem very strange, very odd, and we might be labeled as very weird or eccentric or weird and strange, just bizarre. And it takes an understanding. It takes some time to fully process and fully understand Aspies from a neurotypical perspective. So that's why these bridges have to be built in consequence. Because Aspies can contribute a lot, especially in those special interests as myself, It's 24/7 geopolitics, as I take great pride in my geopolitical work, independent as an independent philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, and thinker and strategist. I always develop strategies for the North American Collective, and of course, there's passes to arrive. I have actually taken great pride in my geopolitical relations, and of course, the geopolitical conclusion of 2019 that of course I had spawned and I had of course put online. I have proof for what I say is of course the relationship where we got now, of course, that I have actually predicted what's happening now in 2019. In October 2019 I have predicted what's happening now. So in October 2019 I had predicted that there would be an international conflagration. Believe it or not, in 2019 I have proof. So whether you believe it or not, I do have proof because I created also a workout training program system to go hand in hand with such a scenario. So in October 2019, 6 years ago, I had predicted that there's coming an international conflagration, aka slash parentheses, a World War III. So in other words, I predicted a World War III coming in the coming 7+ years. So if you look at the world situation that has occurred since 2019 October, you see that the order as we knew it had fundamentally has ceased since the invasion of Ukraine, or what Russia calls their special military operation, and furthermore escalation in Asia between Japan and China, and potentially China to invade Taiwan, their ROC, Republic of China, right? Because ROC is Taiwan. It also has the name China in it. Taiwan. They have an unresolved conflict. So that was one of my main premises, along with the more intellectual, academic, philosophical, geopolitical analysis, which was more deep and profound in its ramifications and details. But one of the general overarching and important elements was that my conclusion that we are headed towards a World War III was due to the fact that many nation states and regions did not fully resolve their 20th century conflicts. So these 20th century conflicts, they were not fully resolved, as of course we see in Eastern Europe, in which Ukraine was part of, and Russia were united in the USSR. So these are Cold War era conflicts which have basically restarted. China and Taiwan is also a Cold War, which the Cold War period lasted between 1947, March 1947, and December 1991. So of course, due to the fact that these lasted for almost 45 years, I say, although some philosophers and geopoliticians and politicians say that it lasted 46 years. 46. I don't mind going extra more than 45, even 47, but what I object to is saying that it's below 40, almost 45. So my analysis, or my belief, or the timeline or the duration of the Cold War for me as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, thinker, philosopher, strategist, is that it lasted between March 1947 and December 1991. So of course that capability that's if you do the math, it's basically almost 45 years between March 1947 and December 1991, because it was at the end of December that George Gorbachev basically signed the perestroika for the dissolution, which began the dissolution of the USSR, also known as the Soviet Union, which included Ukraine. Right, so those are the things which we must be aware of. So these conflicts, also Israel and the Middle East, Israel Hamas, Israel the Arab War, those are conflicts which are a Cold War, during the Cold War, because the state of Israel was founded after the Second World War, and of course, officially 1947, 1948, May, right? So the Declaration of the State of Israel, where it was before the British Mandate of Palestine, because the British Empire started being dissoluted also. And India and Pakistan is another conflict which dates from that Cold War period. If you look at India and Pakistan, and Bangladesh and Pakistan were one country after between 1947 and 1971. So these are also India and Pakistan over Kashmir, the territory of Kashmir. This is also an unresolved conflict from the Second World War, from the Cold War period, right? These are unresolved conflicts, basically from the Cold War period. If you interjected these conflicts, they are all Cold War era conflicts which have reignited or have the potential to reignite, parallel to new ones as well, right? Because due to these conflicts having, I'm auctioning this for $1 million, by the way, to give my anonymous friend half. So of course, if you look at these realities, you can also pinpoint that these conflicts also have a parallel line where other conflicts can be consequentially included or arise next, or due to the spillover of these conflicts which have reignited, right, in the past years. Because Russia Ukraine basically is a fundamental unresolved conflict from the Cold War period, because Ukraine, Moldova, and Belarusia, and of course the Latvia, Estonia, right, and Lithuania, they were part of the Soviet Union. So you have that awareness of the geopolitical momentum. Now here in Quebec, Canada, myself, somebody who was born as a woman and twice as a man, once as a woman, post 70, 76 in the USA, and of course my strategies are for the North American Collectif, as of course the situational awareness and the complexities of the world being that we are, of course, a collective North American civilization, and myself having served twice in two different wars, same U.S. Army, two different wars. The wars were in different 156 years apart. So these wars where I served in were 156 years apart. So quite an amount of time has passed between one war and the other, but it was the same United States Armed Forces that I have served in previous lifetimes. If you believe in reincarnation, then you believe in reincarnations. And myself, sometimes I was born a man, a woman, a man, a woman. You get that 50-50 now. George Patton was my wife, and I was George Patton's wife as well. So I guess we kind of balance the scales on that, eh? So that's the rock and roll. Sometimes we just gotta rock and roll with the trip, and you know, I guess I always have to state in my videos that, but you got to be 18 plus for that play. For this play, you got to be 18 plus. So since I am part of the LGBTQ community, you got to be 18 plus. That means that you have to be born before December 27th. Wow, what a pass! 2007. So if you're born before December 27, 2007, you're 18. Do the math. 2025 ended the year last Sunday of 2025. My 49 is going to go party. Last time it was 25 versus 44. The age, I'm making a reference to the age. 25 versus 44, vice versa, 44 versus 25. And Rivers versus Purdy won by 3 TDs, right? 48 to 27. What a game last Monday. What a game. Go party, irrelevant. No, irrelevant, you're the best. Here, give some charity like a rest. Give some charity, I don't know. And, that's how we kind of rock and roll it. So I love the 49ers. I have videos dating from years and years and years ago, since 2017, maybe 2018, 2019. I was performing with my 49er hat, which I lost. I have it on. So I was filming a few months ago, I think June, July, and there was a big whirlwind, and my hat blew off by the wind, and it went into the highway. I don't know what happened to it. I saw it 4 days after. I saw it at the same spot in the corner there. Was kind of stuck between the rocks and the highway here in Montreal, the Carry Highway. So, yeah, that's a possibility, So I'm gonna get some workout, exercise. So, yeah, I always encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, and I'm getting a little bit of sweat now. I was very moody, for a few hours since this morning. I've woke up several times. Afternoon, I was moody, I guess. But nonetheless, if you're 18 plus, you gotta be. I'm gonna card you, You gotta be born before December 27, 2007. I could use some friends with benefits or Paolo. Pledge your allegiance, legions. Pledge your allegiance, legions. Pledge your allegiance, legions. Pledge your allegiance, legions. And I wish I could have some friends with benefits to trade massage therapy sessions. Because I work out a lot and sometimes I'm sore, and that pleasure with purpose. The body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and to get a little bit of good massage in the neck, in the body, that is something which we have to be consequently, of course, involved in all the parallels, of course, that the strategy, of course, the body is a temple for pleasure and purpose, and we got to get, of course, those dynamics where we are now to get left and right and in the middle, and that's what we have to get doing with that drill. So all that occasion is, of course, that we have now to be on the drill and on the left, and to get a little bit of hydration, super important to hydrate, and of course get a little bit of left and right. And we got these red gloves. Thank you, my anonymous friend, gifting me these red gloves. That was 2018. Wow, 7 years. And do you know Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel back in 2018? That's when I kind of got out of politics, because I was coming from almost 3 years since summer 2014, autumn 2014, till about summer 2017. 2.5 years. I was depressed and suicidal. Very depressed, very suicidal. Right here in this room option temple, where I moved here with nothing really. I graduated high school. I have a high school diploma, and I dropped out of college. For Aspies, there's 7 times. So for everyone neurotypical who drops out of higher education, whether college or university, even high school, there's 7 Aspies who do so. Also, that's a problem for Aspies, autistics, people with autism. There's a very high dropout rate, So that is a problem also as well. The dropout rate for Aspies, unemployment, and that's why we have to see that going. Let's see, Derrick Henry's historic night versus the Packers. Oh, clinched playoffs. My 49ers clinched the playoffs. Yeah, so I was depressed and suicidal, and I moved here from a very moldy, small place. I didn't even have a bathtub. I'm glad I have a bathtub now. I have to take a bath before, one more bath at least before 2026 comes, and probably going to be tomorrow. Take a bath tomorrow, last Monday of 2025, because, if not tonight, later, maybe, I'm not sure. I'll see how it goes. I brushed my teeth already, and now I'm working out training. But where I used to live, I didn't even have a bathtub. It was a small prison type of underground basement. I say I served my time. It wasn't really a prison cell where I lived, but it was very underground, very moldy. And I had a very moldy place. I have a bathtub. The bathtub was not present. I did not have a bathtub, so I couldn't bathe there. I had a shower, but it was super small. I have a bathtub here now, so I'm grateful for that. It was a very small, moldy place, and I didn't even have a kitchen. The kitchen was in my room. So the kitchen was in my room. So that is what it was now. The kitchen was in my room. So that is, of course, something where we have to be now. So being that the kitchen was in my room, basically. Now I have a separate kitchen from my room, which is kind of cool, but I can't have anybody over here. I need the dragon's house. And now, speaking of construction, my will to build all the 4, I'm going to say which we got to build together. The 4 I want to build with you truly is, it's a Dragon versus Trump event. Granddaddy Trump made the mistake, but now we have those impositions of tariffs, and my strategies for fusing Canada and United States best, my fellow Canadians. I got that Canada tatted up. Supposedly I got this tattooed in 2023, more than 22 years ago, when I was after I graduated high school, 2003, something like that, because most of my information comes from journals which I kept. Sometimes comes from journals which I kept. So that was, of course, the strategy which we're going to develop, and that is, of course, where we got that prudency to be left and right and in the middle. That's why we got to get it on now, and we got to get it on this working out and exercising. So, my fellow Canadians, the king is absent. 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 So it's time for the Republic, and we have the food bank usage since 2019 has doubled. The food bank usage has doubled since 2019. That is a fact. So we have very tough. Oh, intercepted by number 44. Look at that. Gotta look at that again. Number 44 again. Let's see. Gotta switch it up a bit. See how we're gonna get it in. And let's see this one. How it's gonna get that rock and roll, man. See how it's gonna get dribbled with. And let's see now. Tuck. Yeah, hey, wow. See number 44. That was quite something, wasn't it? See, Puck catches it from, bounces off, and he catches it, the ball. Wow, that was, see, Tuck. Number 44 on the go. Squish, and then he gets a few yards, so. What a play from number 44. So now it's showing number 22, which is Derek Henry, gives some chatty, and that's what we got. You know, they got to get it on that left and the right, and in the middle and in the left and in the right. And, of course, all those who got to get it on the side of the things. What we got now, he got some of that. 4 touchdown, 216 yards. That's how we're going to get, you know, to get it in the middle and in the huddle. That's how we're going to get, you know. So that's something which we have to do. And it's a Dragon versus Trump, you know. Dragon versus Trump. Since 2018, thank you, my anonymous friend who gifted me these red gloves. I have them, I guess, 7 years. Wow, 7 years. So anybody, I'm willing to get in the rink. Anybody, latest, earliest, February 11th. Earliest, February 11th, earliest. Anybody, Usyk, Tyson. That's what it is. I think the train conductors, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, electricians, and those who, of course, take off the collection of the garbage collectors. You know, also they're athletes. Please give to the garbage collectors a little bit, eh? The garbage collectors, eh? What's up? That's give some charity. Owners though, owners first, because owners of the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, N.A.C.W.P. Please reduce the tickets by 44.9% and also give some tickets. Of course, not just give some tickets, but just give some of those. Reduce the ticket cost by 44.9%, and also, please, 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 the call of the heart, just also give some charity, you know. Owners, reduce the ticket cost and give across Canada, United States, give them some, of course, give them some left and right, give them, of course, the butchers, and of course, give them left and right, and that's what we got to get doing on that. And we're gonna, for those, the plumbers as well, you know, the public workers who pick up the garbage, the recycling, got 3 services here each week, and that's why we need the Dragon Army, aka the Imperial SSD, Security Service and Defense Legion, when we're going to fuse the FBI and the RCMP, get rid of the border, and get the N.A.C.W.P, the North American Collective Workers Party, the North American Collective Workers Party, the N.A.C.W.P, is going to be a public-private partnership, Democratic Republican, as a universal revolutionary centrist. We're going to build the fort. Okay, now I'm going to watch. So I watched, let me see, we're going to watch all the Seahawks. I'm going to watch on the Seahawks. Actually, yeah, we're going to watch the Seahawks in order. Wait. So this was, yeah, we're gonna watch the Seahawks now from today. Seahawks. They played. What are they playing? Jacksonville. Maybe. Let's see. So this is what we're gonna watch. I'm gonna watch here. Panthers. The Panthers. Carolina Panthers. The Seahawks and Panthers. That's what we're gonna get. You know. Panthers. Yeah. So they're 8-7, 12-3. The Seahawks have a great season, 8-7. I think the Panthers are they clinching? Are they in the hunt, as it's called, in the hunt, you know? So please, again, call it a heart. Give some charity and reduce the cost of the tickets, and give some tickets to those who pick up the garbage, the compost, you know, the public workers. Because my dream is fundamentally a PPP, public-private partnership, as the North American Collective Workers Party. And here we're gonna hydrate again, super important, you know. to get hydration. Adrian, that's a good hydration with the tea. So thank you for the donation. And once again, it's a Dragon versus Trump event, and I'm auctioning these gloves 7 years ago. Wow, I got them 7 years as I call for the Septennium, for the NORAD Collective, the North American Collective, for the Dragon Septennium from the mountain. February, March, let's initiate it and pledge your allegiance, legions to our family, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. And we got these. So these we're going to get, auctioning them for $1 million. And let's build a 4. And me and Donald Trump are going to fight in a sportsmanship with sportsmanlike as Granddaddy Trump. When it comes to the geopolitical advisors, I'm a geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, philosopher, and thinker and strategist. Always develop strategies such as the total mobile defense theory, the TMDT, when it has incorporated. Yes, it's a system. I cannot discuss it, but with high-ranking RCMP top officials of the David McGinty, the Chief of National Defense, and our military of Canada, and of course the United States Armed Forces, be it of course Pete Hegseth, and of course Tulsi Gabbard, and all involved in security at all levels. CIA, CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Establishment from the Mountain. Total Mobile Defense Theory is basically for binational security, of course, and for NATO, developed for NATO after I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017, and that has to be clearly understood. So I cannot discuss it, or I don't discuss it much in my videos because it's binational security sensitive, and of course it's also have to say that now with the resurgence of the Islamic State, I have to urge citizens to write down the protocols and distribute it. The protocol which I'm making a reference is, of course, the Independent Citizen Security Initiative Action, or Independent Citizen Security Action. The Citizen Independent Citizen Security Action, ICSA, Independent Citizen Security Action, is I started writing it after myself circa 2016. I took an independent action, and I always say that maybe I was safe to save others, since I used to live about 11 years ago and 10 years ago in that very moldy place where I didn't even have a bathtub. So in 2016, I found here, I get goosebumps whenever I discuss it. I get goosebumps, see, because I found here in the freely distributed newspaper an article calling on citizens to pledge allegiance to the Islamic State terror group, and that was when they had established their caliphate and they were wreaking havoc around the world with the Bataclan attack. So I'm pretty sure I prevented a mass casualty attack, a mass terrorist activity here in Montreal, Canada, and of course maybe even the USA. Right away, I didn't even hesitate. I took that article, and up to this day, I don't know how it was published, how it passed through the editors, and there was a propaganda, Islamic State propaganda, right here, freely distributed in Montreal. In 2016, I took the newspapers. I get goosebumps when I discuss it. Right away, I went and made a deposit, and I made, of course, a citizen independent security action and activity, and I went to the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mountain Police, and after that, a few days and a few weeks and months afterward, I did not see the newspaper published. I don't know how it passed, but in that newspaper, they had about 4-page article on behalf of the Islamic State terror group on the caliphate, calling all to pledge allegiance and attack us and start mass attacks here. So maybe I'm pretty sure I prevented a mass terrorist attack, a mass casualty attack right here in Montreal. So I don't know how even the SPVM, our police forces, didn't. I mean, no citizen would also SPVM in our security intelligence. That's why we have to get the SSD, Security Service and Defense, and the Imperial Police Service, the IPS, which we're going to constitute and form based on my new 911 Drago Total Army protocols, and fuse the RCMP and the FBI. So we're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI, get rid of the border, create a new currency via the DRT, my DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, for the UE or the Imperial Dollar, and we're going to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, which are part of my dream, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Basically, we're also going to rebuild the ghettos, aka the neighborhoods, the urban inner cities. We're going to be mass financing the rebuilding, reconstruction of the ghettos of North America, Canada, United States joint. We're going to, of course, also mass finance tourism, the imperial tourism, because we're going to establish the Imperial Republic of the 63. by Providence a few weeks ago. I was marching and it was snowing after a snowstorm and cold, and I found this. See the number 6363 because 13 states from Canada, 50 just like the original 13. We're gonna add to the new 50, so we're gonna constitute the new Imperial Republic with a formulated new constitution, and of course here Montreal, the island. We're gonna turn into a total SSD security service and defense plateau for the Empire, for the Imperial Republic, as we're going to fuse and merge and create a total SSD integrated across all citizens. We're going to get the new law of Thelema for total SSD security service and defense from the island of the Hawk across the 10, the 50, and the 3. And we're going to mass finance fitness via public-private partnership. That's why I'm calling on my Scorpio citizen, brother citizen Bill Gates. Bill Gates of Microsoft, flock safety, the webcams, and the webcams, of course, capabilities to be also placed all around the empire and, of course, in the cities and small cities, and have the citizen integration theory with all security services and forces operation, of course, to be integrated all aspects of society for the rejuvenation and establishing of the Imperial Republic for joy, security, safety, and defense. And, of course, we're going to establish the plateau based in the concordance, of course, with my philosophy, such as the total Draconis complex for total security, total service, total defense, based on my CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, Deadroot fusion theory, and the DFT, democratic fusion theory. And that's what we're going to have, of course, the plateau now to be relegated, of course, in all the compositions where we are to compose and integrate, and, of course, to structure this mass public-private partnership in concordance. We're going to call it on my brother Scorpio Bill Gates, flock safety, Palantir, and all institutions and organizations, from the banking institutions and organizations such as my own bank, the RBC, where I'm, of course, $10,000 in debt, and all ALL telecommunications corporations, from Bell Canada to Verizon to Rogers, as we're going to have to see that. We have to do a mass reconstruction and mass security service and defense and do a census. Canadian, North American, join Canada, United States, as we're going to get rid of the border that got to go, and we're going to integrate and mass finance fitness, mass finance social housing, and food security fitness, food security housing, and, of course, integrate all citizens into total security service and defense complex for the total rehabilitation of the imperial complex and the birth of the Imperial Republican complex, as we're going to formulate the constitutional reforms in order to fuse Canada and United States, and a mass public-private partnership is required. We're going to operate and integrate after the implementation of the debt fusion theory, the DRT, which we're going to create the UE. We're going to take all the debt, public and private debt, and we're going to refuse it, and that money is going to be the new money supply for this imperial dollar. The UE, U.Universal, U.Exchange, U.UE. It could be transnational as way NATO, all the way, of course, NATO complex. It could be created this new currency called the UE, Universal Exchange Unit, because that's what fundamentally money is. So we require a mass public-private partnership, new servers, and a mass public-private partnership with all institutions and organizations, the debt fusion theory, DRT, for the creation of the UE. It's something which we have to do together ourselves, and gonna do it, have great hope and joy that this is the solution, eh? This is the solution, and with that, afterwards, we're going to mass finance citizens' fitness, mass finance the rehabilitation of the majority, depending on XYZ factors of discernment, of course, but the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act, because it will be in our geopolitical interest to brothers and sisters who lost their liberty. I have freedom tatted there. We're going to ensure secure freedom. We're going to mass finance rebuilding, mass finance reconstruction, and the ghettos, and we're going to mass finance fitness, and we're going to implement the Imperial Tourist protocols, the Imperial Tourism protocols. Everybody who's 16 and over across the empires, we're going to fuse Canada and United States, is going to be accorded four times a year, at the spring equinox, at the summer equinox, at the autumn equinox, at the equinoxes and the solstices, with a spring, summer, autumn, winter, winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, spring, autumn, summer, summer, autumn, spring, sprint. Every citizen 16 and over is going to be credited 4 days. Well, actually 4 nights. Actually, in truth, 4 nights, where food, lodging, and transport is going to be covered by the expenses of our Imperial Republic, the Democratic Imperial Republic of United States of America and Canada, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, the Imperial American Canadian Republic, the Imperial Canadian American Republic, American Canadian Republic, the true north, strong and free. We got to add some loving and some charity and some righteousness and justice with that, because it's not enough to be brave and strong, eh? Somebody not making some good loving now, it's We're gonna love an Aspie, love me good, Wanna love and be loved. You're black or white, or man or woman. We could do that rock and roll rainbow. We gotta be 18 plus for that play. For that play, you gotta be 18 plus. Although those who are 16 and over are gonna be credited 4 days every four. So basically every 4 times a year, every 3 months, basically. Solstice, equinox, summer, spring, autumn. And of course, there's going to be a mass public-private partnership. And this is going to foster a great imperial esprit de corps. Because when I traversed Canada after my depression, well, before I was depressed and suicidal, what got me out of depression was coast to coast in Canada, coast to coast in 2017, and of course in August 2017 in British Columbia in Vancouver when we went with my anonymous friend. I got the tickets, so I'm auctioning the tickets for $1 million each, and then of course in September 2017 of that same year we went to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I have those tickets. It was 25 hours and 44 minutes by train, and it took 3.5 days to reach by bus from Montreal to Vancouver in August 2017. And ever since that day, of course, we had to be formulated, of course, the relationships where we are now to be conclusive about in all the domains where we establish ourselves in the covenant of we're going to be from the mountain, Mount Royal. Of course, we're going to get that new covenant, and we're going to get it on the left and the right and in the middle. And of course, in the left and in the middle as a universal revolutionary centrist, that is my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. And that is fundamentally where we have to do in the appellation of the consummation of all the powers that are at our disposal to do and implement my trinity of theories: the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, the debt fusion theory, and the democratic fusion theory. And of course, it can be expanded because the North American Collective is not just Canada, United States, but it includes Mexico, Haiti, country of Haiti, Dominican Republic. Cuba is a paradox because they're still socialist communist in that integral, but nonetheless, that is part of my dream, and we're going to build the four. We're gonna build the four. Let's build the four together on the Canadian-U.S. border. Let's build the biggest ever arena ever built. We're gonna build the Imperial Citizen, the Imperial Coliseum, Imperial People's Coliseum, which is gonna be 11 times bigger than well, there's a place in New Orleans where several Super Bowls were fought, played, battled out. One of my favorite is Super Bowl 47. Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames. The Harbaugh Ball, aka Blackout Ball, aka Bro Ball. So it has several nicknames, that Super Bowl. And that is a Super Bowl where, once, of course, we had complimentary to get where my 49ers lost, although by 3 points. Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames. Bro Bowl, Harbaugh Ball, Blackout Ball. So Blackout Ball, Harbaugh Ball, Bro Ball has several names. And of course, that implementation, of course, of building on the Canadian-U.S. border, the biggest ever sports arena coliseum ever built, is going to be for the solidification and the union fusion of Canada and the United States to the Imperial Republic. And on the Canadian-U.S. border, me and Donald Trump to inaugurate the biggest ever coliseum ever built, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. So where Super Bowl 47, along with other Super Bowls, was fought and battled and played out, is known as Super Bowl 47. And that Super Bowl 47, like I said, has several nicknames. And it changed names, just like I changed names during COVID. Still officially have to get that paper money to change officially my name. But of course, the Imperial People's Coliseum, we're going to get it on the go. And on the Canadian-U.S. border, we're going to build a structure 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Now it's called Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome, before it used to be known as the Louisiana Superdome, but after that it changed names to the Mercedes-Benz, and after that now it changed names to Caesar Superdome, and after that we're going to get it on the go now to get it on the left and on the right and in the middle, and got to get it to build, of course, the Imperial People's Coliseum, where we got now to left and the right and in the middle, and parallel to that we're going to build the Forgotten Goddess Temple. I always say God bless, Goddess kiss, our empire, God bless, Goddess kiss. I got those trillions of kisses, of course, credited from the Forgotten Goddess, where we are now to be revolutionized about, and of course to get those domains where we are now to left and the right and in the middle. And that's what we have to be doing now in their extracurricular activities, where we're going to finance as a mass public-private partnership across North America, and it's going to include us building these four structures: the Imperial People's Coliseum, and of course that is the domain where we have to build now to let us on the go, and that is just the fundamental aspects of building the Forgotten Goddess Temple, which parallel to the Imperial People's Coliseum, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Here in Montreal, we have a structure known as the Oratory, St. Joseph's Oratory. So thus, let's say this Forgotten Goddess Temple is going to be 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory. So 1111, and we're going to build the pyramid House of the Dragon. There I could have open houses, but gonna get it on the mountain. Pyramid, red, red, red. Scarlet is a shade of red, basically. Scarlet and crimson are shades of red. We're gonna build the pyramid, forgotten the House of the Dragon, and of course we're gonna build the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergence community. Let's check another Super Bowl now. Not Super Bowl, we're gonna check the Pittsburgh Steelers versus. No, let's go to Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are doing good, eh? Ravens are doing good. So we're gonna check the Ravens. Actually, how are the Ravens doing? They're not doing so good. They're not doing that good in this season, eh? But it's the Ravens which in Super Bowl 47 defeated my 49ers, not by much, but still a defeat, right? But even if it's by 1 point. In Super Bowl 47 is actually one of my favorites. Super Bowl 47 is one of my top five favorites, although my 49ers lost. But it has several nicknames. Hardball Ball, it's called one of the nicknames is Hardball Ball from the surname Hardball Ball because it was the first and only one time ever since. What are the odds that two brothers are facing as head coaches? Jim and John Harbaugh were head coaches in Super Bowl 47, and so my personal memory, I don't remember that Super Bowl in 2013. I watched it after in 2014, 2015, 2016. I watch it every year actually because it's my 49ers, but because I have a problem remembering my life prior to January, February 2014. So winter 2014, I have a very good memory of the past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. Then it's like blackouts and flashes. So basically the technical term is more rah, 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 retrograde amnesia, a form of amnesia. So I don't know if before I was doing drugs or it was vicious. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I still have to go retrieve the archives maybe by the year's end and Monday or Tuesday. Maybe tomorrow's Monday, gonna do laundry, so it's not gonna be tomorrow. But Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe I'll go to the Jewish General because that's where I went. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head a few times, hit my head on the concrete, and had a dislocated right arm and went bloodied up. I was bloodied up, went to the Jewish General Hospital. And I'm curious what date it was in the archive. So basically, I'm gonna request the archives, the retrieval of archives, to see what I was prescribed because I was prescribed some medication. So I'm curious what that medication was exactly, and what purpose did that medication have? Because I was prescribed some meds. So yeah, I survived that. Vicious. So I don't like violence, but I guess I am hyper vigilant, and play that defense here. The Empire is gonna play SSD, security service and defense, based on my total mobile defense theory. SSD, total mobile defense theory, and that's how we're gonna get, and that's how we're gonna go with that for the drill, for the left, for the right, and for the implementation of the middle ground, where we're gonna have, of course, to implement all our capabilities, of course, where we are in Concordia now to be on the left and the right and in the middle and all those left and right left aspects where we're gonna get the Imperial Republic to get the financing, of course, for us to be inside, to go atop the mountain and to get it our two heads, one righteousness, one wicked, the righteousness, one for the other, one for the other, two in one, double trouble. We're going to fuse the north through strong and free with the land of the brave and the home of the brave and the land of the free, and we're going to get, of course, some loving in that, and that's how we're going to do consequentially, and we're going to get the dragon army. Nobody's born a dragon, you become one, and here we go. We're going to see some of that football. Oh, Baltimore 7-8, so they're kind of in the hunt. I guess the Green Bay Packers, they did it on the go, so there's a little bit of number 22 getting a few yards down, and it's gonna check a little bit of Super Bowl. And I'm pretty joyous, happy, content now. I was moody earlier, but every time working out, training, exercising, when I get the sweat, I always feel much better. That's why for years you can check my transcripts from more than years and years and years ago, 3.5, 4, you can go back 6, 7 years. I have been advocating for mass financing. I still am today now, doing it now, for the mass financing of fitness, citizens' fitness via mass public private punishment, of course, incorporated and integrated with all existing security services and operations of security services and defense and all the relegations of where we have now to be relegated about, and all that domain where we infuse ourselves in all these implementation of these protocols and initiatives such as the CIT Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT Debt Fusion Theory, and the DFT Democratic Fusion Theory for the incorporations, of course, of the mass public-private partnership, which is going to rejuvenate, recreate, and include the total SSD, coast-to-coast, ocean-to-ocean, for the formulation, of course, of the total security and service defense plateau, and where we're going to get it on the go. And that's how we're going to rebuild the ghettos, rebuild the highways, rebuild the infrastructure via the DRT. So the DRT, the Debt Fusion Theory, is going to enable us to mass build to mass rebuild, of course, consequently, the infrastructure, the bridges, the tunnels, and to mass finance tourism 4 days, 4 times a year. That's 16 days a year. 4 nights, basically. 4 nights is going to be lodging in hotels, motels, and tourism. So all citizens, as we're going to implement the census, are going to be able to go anywhere across the empire. So this is going to be financing and founding, laying the foundation for the Imperial Tourist Ministry. The Imperial Tourism Ministry will have, of course, overseeing their traveling. So food, housing, and lodging. You can take 4 nights basically. But if you're traveling during the night, you lose a night. So 4 nights, food, the food, basically lunch, breakfast, lunch, and whatever the case may be, food, lunch, and of course the other is dinner. And of course, this is going to be great for mental health as well. Traveling anywhere across the 63, from Quebec to Yukon, from Quebec to, of course, California to Oregon, Illinois. I guess we're going to say all the 50 states, maybe. Maybe we should stay at 63 and the 13. We'll do some push-ups, some workout. Well, actually, not going to do some push-ups, but we're going to get a little bit of that. So that is just part of the dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, which for years and years and years I've been calling all now to pledge allegiance. It's been many, many years from this underground room office and temple in Hawk Island, Montreal, as an island surrounded by a big, big river. So we're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI, and based on my new 911 Dragon Army protocols, of course, for total security, total service, total defense, as a mass public-private partnership, we're going to mass finance tourism. So from Quebec, anybody can travel from each to wherever across the 63, 4 times a year. You can take 4 days, 4 times a year, or you can take 8 days twice a year, and of course you can take 16 days once a year, and of course you can travel, of course, in the implementation where we got to get now, of course, the suffusion of where we are now to get implementation in the dialogue, and of course left and right. But nonetheless, once you get to 44 days that you have accumulated as an imperial citizen, you have to use them or lose them, in other words. So because 4 times 11 is 44, so use them or lose them. And of course we have to get now compromittedly where we have now to be in the domains where we have to get the situational awareness that this is, of course, great, going to foster a social psychological great esprit de corps, and we're going to mount to a great benefit for the total population, for joy and wellness. So it's going to be a mass public-private partnership, and consequently, we're going to rebuild the ghettos, rebuild the bridges, the infrastructure. Our infrastructure needs a mass public-private partnership, and via the DRT, the debt refusion tiers, we're going to take all the public and the private debt, refuse it, and create a new imperial central bank to issue the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.UE, which is going to be the imperial dollar. With that money serves a purpose to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. So that money serves a fundamental purpose. So this is where we're going to get in the next step of our civilizational collective's evolution of the North American complex, when all this public-private partnership is going to be put for the greater good and for the individual security and liberty, but also to get a boost in and also with the realities of the geopolitical situation of today, which we are on the verge of World War III. So taking into consideration the geopolitical concerns of today and the fact that the world order as we had known it has come to an end, that a new world order is being built, and our Imperial Republic is going to be for us as the security, service, and defense, and rejuvenation and rehabilitation of the North American collective. So we're going to rebuild the highways, the buildings, we're going to mass finance tourism, and this tourism imperative is going to be fostering great initiatives, is going to be in collaboration with all existing institutions for security, armed forces and police forces and community organizations. And we're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI into the Imperial Police Service. The RCMP and the FBI, we're going to be fusing it into the Imperial Police Forces. And based on these protocols and dictas, we're going to take it one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And first and foremost, we have to start implementing the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the collection, of course, of the UE, the Universal Exchange, which is something where we have now to be compromitted and integrated in all the relationships where we are now to be relationships of our coming of our Imperial Republic. And that's how we're going to have to be now, of course, relegated to all the domains where we got now all the plurality of all our involvement to be left or right and in the middle, and of course to get it for the left, for the right, and as a pro-labor universal revolutionary centrist, that is something which we have to be relatively and think about in all the domains where we got now, where we are today. So my theories, protocols are of course gold, and that's why we have to take them to the further step of this coming alliance and confluential operative, of course, of doing. It takes doing, and basically it takes implementing these protocols and these relationships what we have now for the future and for our general overall wellness to integrate and take them to the next step in our evolutionary process by the DRT, the debt refusion T. Once we're going to take all the public and the private debt, including my $10,000, and we're going to refuse it. So all the public private debt and the money in circulation, we're going to create a new central bank thereof, and we're going to create the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE, because the UE has and is, of course, the parallel, of course, domain where we got now to be relegated, of course, on the situational aspects. And of course, that is just the relationship of our well-being and wellness for the future. And it will require the DRT, debt refusion, and we're going to set an interest rate level of 10% thereafter. So after the DRT is implemented, we're not going to be able to have more charging more than 10%. So 10% interest rate is going to be established thereof after we implement the DRTs. Again, a universal revolutionary centrism. My universal revolutionary centrism is tied hand in hand with the trinity of theories what we have now, the CIT, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and the democratic fusion theory. We're going to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions what we have now to be relegated, of course, on the side and in the middle, and that's what we're going to do now in all the domains where we got now to be left and right and in the middle. And of course, the DRT, debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, DRT, the debt refusion theory with the CIT, citizen integration theory. That's what we're going to have to be relationship of all of these, that this trinity of theories as an integrated aspects of our work and my dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. But fundamentally, I guess, is starting all three together. But the DRT, debt refusion theory, once again, we're going to take all the public and the private debt. So my $10,000, yours, coast to coast, ocean to ocean with the US debt, we're going to add it all together, and all that debt is going to be the plus the money circulation is going to be all the money that it will be formulated for this new currency, the imperial dollar, aka the UE, the universal exchange unit. So it will require black rock, blackstone, or financial institutions that are private, just like my RBC, but it will require not just black rock and blackstone, which separated in 1989 but still work together. It will require mass public private partnership of the financial industry, the flock, security, safety, Microsoft, and all my brothers and sisters across North America to implement it and collaborate. And thus, we're going to create this new currency, and we're going to mass finance fitness, mass finance tourism as well. So tourism is going to be financed. So one citizen thereafter is going to be able to go anywhere across the 63, from Yukon here north of Quebec to Alabama, from Wisconsin, West Virginia, anywhere from any state to another state. And you can use 4 days 4 times a year, or you can use 8 days twice a year, or basically 12 and 2. You can different combos, or you can use once a year 16. Me, I'm going to probably use 8 days is going to apply to myself as well, 8 days a year. Sometimes I may just take 4 and 12, but usually 8 8. I like 8 8, so 4 every season, spring, because we're going to have 4 seasons across the North American Collective, aka the Dancing Goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, the Imperial American Canadian Republic, the IACR, the Imperial American Canadian Republic, the IACR, Imperial American Canadian Republic, the IACR of the new United States of America, which is going to be 63. But we're going to have to do our land of Canada and fusing the 44 million Canadians with the 350 million United States in America and the new 13 states. The land, we have more land mass and have more population. So that north and south, which are going to become one people, here. We're going to have the French state, because 9 million people in Quebec speak French, so we're going to have different constitutions for each of the 63 states, and Quebec is going to be the French state to maintain as much as we can and encourage the French language, and thus the other states and the overall imperial central federated constitution, which is going to be formulated according to the 21st century real geopolitical situations, and is going to be the God bless and Goddess kiss. That's going to be also in the constitution of the empire. God bless goddess kiss, because it's first and foremost, I'm laying the foundations with 718 trillions of kisses. 718 trillions of kisses. That is the formulation where we have now to be relegated in all the Imperial Republic, before we got to get it on the go. So that is what we have to get doing now, where we're going to get it for the left and the right. And that's why we have to get a little bit of football, So owners of the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, and MLB, Major League Baseball, also going to have to participate. It's going to be a great public-private partnership, a great dream. For years and years and years, I discussed it, and I lost so much weight here. I gonna be also, we're gonna mass finance also fitness. So this is, we're gonna do my workout, the general war integrated whole body training system, which I did myself, created back in 2019 before I had COVID, by the way. So I had COVID back in 2020, February, mid-February to mid-March. I was very sick and ill, so I had COVID, so I kind of died of COVID right here in this room off Sun Temple. Nothing that I will to go back to. I can't believe it's going to be 6 years since I had COVID in February, mid-February, right in mid-February. So I've been working out, training and exercising ever since, and that is something which I did now, relegated, of course, to the domains where we got to get it going, and of course that appellation where we have to be relatively about to get the domains involved, and that is something where we have to be suffusing ourselves where we are now from the mountain, Mount Royal, as we're gonna go get on that go, and that's something which we're gonna have to formulate in all the representations. Now I see all them cheering in the. I wonder. So I wonder how many are Aspies. Not a lot. There's not a lot of us Aspies, and see. No. That was quick. Anyways, I wanted to show it off a bit, but I wonder the attendance for the game. Sometimes it's high. So auctioning this ball, $1,000,000. Auctioning the other one. Where's the other one? I'm gonna see it. So you got a small one, smaller one, bigger one. This is for more the CFL, but you can still throw it a bit. And whoop, fumble recovered, fumble recovered, fumble recovered, fumble recovered, up. 6 yards to the right, 6 yards to the left, 6 yards down the middle. That's 18, and then you get a big one for a big one. Whoop-a. Big one for 44 yards. That's how you get those Hail Marys. If you gotta get a few more plays, and then you get some running balls, and you get yourself some football, and gonna eat something leftovers later. Thank you, my anonymous friend, for sponsoring. Wish I could get a million a being a trillion for sponsoring the lamb, and I gotta take responsibility for the washer, the washer or the dryer, something I should gotta get myself 2/3, that's 66.6% to get the washer done, and so I have to go do the laundry for myself and others. And for years I've been doing it at the laundromat, and my anonymous friend bought it, and I used it here for the past 3 years, I think, maybe even more than 3 years, at least 3 years. So I kind of take some responsibility that I damaged it myself. So I wish I could give her a house, and a house best, and with a washer, the dryer with it. So we gotta get it drilled here. So I'm gonna go up and down and up and down and up and down. Oh, that feels so good. I feel some of those biceps, and that's how we're gonna get it relatively in. And let's get a touchdown. I guess I'm gonna have to eat some of this lettuce. Ah, that's what we got. Ah, that's what we got. That's what we rock and roll. And that's what we have to be now. Involved in doing some exercise. Wow, what a ball! This right side get kicked out of bounds. So it's always for the 63, always for the left and for the right, and that's how we have to do it now. We gotta get some passes and running some balls. Sometimes you just gotta start your you gotta start your fitness journey somewhere. You start a little bit of that fitness journey. As I started after a cross Canada coast to coast, I lost between 80 pounds and 93 pounds. So I lost a lot of weight, and has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. I was depressed and suicidal. I almost took my lights out myself. So, I was right here, for 2 years and a half, almost 3 years. And sometimes memory comes back. I have a good memory, just before February 2014, just like blackouts. And I used to live maybe the mold there where I used to live. I came here with nothing really. I didn't have I have a high school diploma, stuff like that, but I graduated high school in Canada. Of a high school diploma, but I came here with nothing. I put on so much work here, especially in the geopolitical sphere. My theories, protocols have to be formulated and implemented in all the domains what we got now. But of course, my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, is of course super good for the domains where we have now to be. But the DRT, the debt refusion theory, is something which we have to get it doing on the side, implementing as soon as possible, because we are on the verge of a financial collapse, which could start. The year can start. Look at number 44. He's got some walking good. He's walking a little bit of that step like a Dragon Army march cadence. Number 44 had done that interception and had made a good run with it, and they were marching in cadence. I guess they maybe said for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, electricians, the welders, the plumbers, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those now who are on the field. So auctioning this one for a mid, auctioning 93% of everything that I have, actually. Everything that I have. The gloves were gifted 7 years ago, and Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. At the same time, we have to see the paradox in many ways of us having been also invited, although I didn't predict Donald Trump's re-election. We have to say that as Canadians, we have been invited in a paradoxical manner. Again, Granddaddy Trump, you should have baked some pies. Bake 13 and 50, that's 63 pies, because it's now one state, it's going to be 13. But of course, that is the deal which we're going to make, a public-private partnership, and of course, the complementary covenant for SSD, security, service, and defense. And we need to rehabilitate a lot of our brothers and sisters who lost their liberty in order to start building those 44 mass tunnel structures, 44 mass underground cities. We have to start building ASAP in case of a thermonuclear war, which could begin anywhere, of course, as we can see that China has increasingly developed, of course, nuclear warheads, and increasingly developed nuclear warheads. We can see with China that they have, of course, increasingly developed nuclear warheads in a manner, of course, which we have to be ourselves relegated about, and that's what we have to be doing now. So all that relation is to say now that we have to be doing it on the side and being in the sidelines. It's taking also part of it and helping how one can help in all the manifestations of the dream which was just concorded. And this dream, of course, is a mass public-private partnership fundamentally across the North American collective, as we have now been doing, of course, in all the civilizational aspects where we have to be involved with. And the rehabilitation of our brothers and sisters who lost their liberty is also something which we're going to have to prioritize, as well as building those 44 tunnels. Maybe put some work. People are going to be able to put some work in that for the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act. And we see, going to watch two teams which are, they didn't clinch the Super Bowl. They for the I mean not the Super Bowl, but they didn't clinch the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl. Correction. That's why we have to be fundamentally relegated, of course, in the aspects where we are now to be on the sides, and of course in the concomitant aspects where we got to be left and right, and in the middle, of course, to be on all the sides and the spheres where we got now to be ourselves and becoming our imperial republic here for the greater good and for the individual's liberty, and to get second, third. A lot of people deserve second and third chances, and I love to see people getting rehabilitated. It's a rehabilitation myself, I guess. Maybe I would have taken my life and committed suicide 2014. 2015, 2016, I didn't. I crossed Canada coast to coast, and crossing Canada coast to coast is, of course, what made me come out of being depressed and suicidal. And that was a great moment for the turn of my life and all my work, which I've done in not just artistic, but also geopolitical in nature. And it's continuous because it's on a daily basis. And as well, I have to come back to my prediction of 2019. 6 years ago, when I predicted an international conflagration, and the world, of course, has been pretty much set on a concourse and towards. It's been happening parallel in many ways, not in all details, but in many ways, as I have predicted it back in 2019, of course, I'll be serious about the discussions, and the seriousness of the situation is that we possibly can see a World War III, a nuclear World War III. Myself, my predictions were that it was going to be biological weaponry. The nuclear question was 50-50. The biological warfare was two-thirds, so that's 66.6%. Two-thirds is 66.6% probability, which is a high probability of biological weapon. Now, I don't know what COVID was. I believe that COVID was transmitted from snakes to human beings, although I cannot rule out another possibility, of course, that COVID was, of course, something else. And, of course, that is possibility that COVID was a biological weapon. That's my trinity on COVID. I believe it was transmitted from snakes to human beings. I don't know if it was transmitted from snakes to human beings, but, of course, it is also possible that COVID was, of course, a bioweapon. So that is my fourth dimension to that trinity, is of course something which we have now to be relegated, of course, in all the aspects of our civilizational complex, where we have now to be situationally aware of course, in all the domains. But that is the trinity and the fourth dimension, because what I do know for sure is that before COVID started in October 2019, I myself predicted that a World War III scenario is on the horizon, and I have proof because I have the videos, because I started posting a sequence of video which lasted several years, because in parallel to the World War III scenario, I had, of course, also created a workout training program system designed, made, and created to go with such a scenario, officially titled the General War Integrated All Body System, aka the Dragon Workout, which, of course, I have myself done more than 372 sessions, right here in this room off Sun Temple, of that same workout training program system, which, of course, I had created back in 2019 in Concordia. So that is the relations and the fact, of course, of the factoid, that is just the factual representation of what I just said, that I have the proof of the videos online. So, of course, all those videos, of course, which I have to be consequently involved in all the domain where we got now to represent ourselves in all the aspects of the civilizational relations, that we are a collective North American civilizational complex, and there's a possibility, of course, that China invades Taiwan. So the fact that China might invade Taiwan, it is, of course, a possibility on the horizon, which might begin even tonight, and that there's an escalation in the Middle East, and that before October 7th, the attack which Israel calls as 9/11, I was advocating simultaneously via the Genesis protocol, the Genesis 33 initiative, as reference to the twins, right? Because Jacob, Israel, the biblical story, of course, of the ancient Egyptian gods and deities, goddesses as well, right? Gods and goddesses, because it's always God bless, Goddess kiss, our coming of our empire, and we've got to build a forgotten goddess temple right here, the coming of our empires would constitute a new civilizational complex. But nonetheless, my Genesis chapter, it was protocol Genesis 33, and before October 7th, I was advocating for both Israel and Mexico to join simultaneously NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member states, which have to incorporate my DMAA, Direct Military Assistance and Action, which, of course, in parentheses has a C, a consequence, of course, which can be done transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, and those transnational criminal syndicate organized groups have to be relatively involved about all the priorities, of course, of where we got the domains, and, of course, all those names where we are to be constituent about all the left and the right, and in the middle, sometimes pro-labor love, universal revolutionary centrism is something which we have, of course, to get involved ourselves with today, and in the middle of where we stand now in this end of the year, last Sunday of 2025, we have to accord ourselves that somebody, and the children are innocent, the children are innocent, the children are innocent, as the motto of the empire, and of course the Dragon Army is nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. And of course, all that characteristics where we have now to be relatively in all the domains where we have now to left and the right and in the middle, and of course to be left in such a way where our plurality of a civilizational complex, which is multi-dimensional in all its social cultural aspects, that we have to basically be aware that we constitute an emergent civilizational complex, and we are an emergent civilizational complex which is new and which has emerged since around the end of the Second World War. So, of course, all that Second World War where we got now to be left or right and in the middle, with all the priorities where we got now to be left or right, and of course to be left and right means that we have the middle as well. middle, the centrist, right? So, but however, when I say that I'm a universal revolutionary centrist, my centrism is tied hand in hand with my Trinity or theory, so is also North American, also North American in nature, because I am a North American fundamentally. As much as I study on the daily and read tens of thousands of books on philosophies and theories and all the civilizational aspects where we have now to be relatively about all the left and the right and in the middle that we have now to be inside all our spheres where we have to get on that plateau of being aware that we are an emergent civilizational complex and we have the collective interest in order with the individual as well as the individual citizen to be secured, and of course the individual citizen of course to be secured in all the aspects that we have now to be relatively about all our domains that we got now to resolve the complexities of our civilizational complex by creating the two complementary and the cooperative institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, which is going to be requiring them, is going to be doing, is going to be inclusive of all participants, of all our citizens, which is going to be Canadians, United States merging as one people, and all these citizens of the empire, and all LL, all who come to join us, all who come to join us now, all who come to join us in the domains where we got now to be left and right and in the middle, and of course in those aspects where we have now to be on the side or to take the big decisions to implement this mass public-private partnership, which is going to be the implementation of my CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt fusion theory, the democratic fusion theory, DRT, debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE, dot universal E dot exchange U dot UE, the universal exchange, and of course the Imperial People's Republic, and the DRT debt fusion theory is going to be enabling us to have this new currency where we're going to be rebuilding mass imperial structures. Gonna be rebuilding the aqueducts, the sewers and the aqueducts, and that's how we're gonna be left and right and rebuild the aqueducts and the sewers. And of course, all that we're gonna be rebuilding now is gonna be rebuilding of all these sewers and the aqueducts, which we're gonna have now to be relegated, of course, in all the domains now. So, of course, all that is to say that we're gonna be rebuilding the infrastructure, the bridges, mass financing fitness. So this is the dream, not just for myself, but for us, for the individual and for the greater good, for the individual and for the greater good. So it's going to require a mass public-private partnership. Of course, I gave a brief resume, a brief aperçu of all the theories, the protocols thereof, which you can see, go read the transcripts from many, many years past as I started during COVID, especially in the past 3.5 years, as we're going to move February, March toward the mountain and implement the Septenium, the dragon army, the dancing goddess, and the dragon kingdom. Nobody's born a dragon. You become a 7 years protocol for the total implementation, of course, of the protocols where we have now to be relegated inside ourselves and with through ourselves here in the North American Collective, my brothers and sisters of all who are North Americans, black, white, and brown, myself, here's an androgynous pansexual Aspie artist, open for friends with benefits or pledge your allegiance. If you're black or white, for that play, you have to be 18 plus, In a card you have to be born before December 27, 2007, because that's when you do the math. 2025 minus 2007, that gives you 18. So the Imperial Tourism Ministry, we're going to finance tourism. That's going to be great. We're going to, like I said, by the DRT, we're going to rebuild the ghettos, the North American inner urban cities, and the highways and the bridges. So basically, it's a fundamental mass public-private partnership, and this mass public-private partnership is going to require, of course, the representative, of course, where we have to be now, and of course, we're going to have to get on that to do. It is the solution. It's the solution for what's happening now. There's no other way around the finances and the public and the private. As even in Canada, the PBO, Parliamentary Budget Officer, of course, has relegated, of course, our realities, which we're going to have now, but the Parliamentary Budget Officer of Canada has stated by himself that we're done in the coming 18 months, and that's already been a month since, and you can since he declared it. So the PBO of Canada and myself have said, and for years now I've been saying what the PBO said, that there's a coming plateau where it's going to be unsustainable, the public financial. So that's why there's cuts in the public service, eh? So cuts coming in, unprecedented cuts in the public service due to the interest. So that's why we're going to maximize the interest payments at 10% after implement the DRT. So it's going to be a reset. The debt refusion theory, this can be extended, blah, 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 blah. For the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, this could be extended with the Bank of International Settlements. And here in North America, we would create the Imperial Police Service, the IPS, Imperial Police Service, the IPS, whereby the fusion of Canada and the United States. And of course, getting rid of the border, fusing the RCMP and the FBI, and gonna do the great census, say census of the population, and see who has been living here since in the past 7 years, and to be eligible to serve in the Dragon Army, gonna have to be living here for 7 years, Canada, United States, as we're gonna constitute this total SSD, Security Service and Defense. These are only for the purpose of SSD, Security Service and Defense, and integrated with all existing institutions and organizations. Once we're gonna finance people's tourism, people to travel four times a year. That's 16 days every year. For each season is going to be the equinox and the season when the beginnings of the season of the spring, summer, autumn is going to be 4 days at the beginning of each season, whether spring, winter, autumn, or summer. So 4 days, 4 times 4, that's 16, 6 times a year. That's going to be, of course, relegated, of course, to the propositions where we have now to be relationships of all the domains where we got to get on the left and on the right and in the middle to get on that aspect of the civilizational complex where we have now. So all that is to say that we are here now, and my survival, my, I guess, death and rebirth here, I guess, several times, and it's for the greater good for myself. I don't make pretense that I don't like pleasure. I love my wafers, love my hazelnut spreads, and love my mountain here, love my island, and love the youth, and like to see them happy and joyous. And I don't like violence. I do not like violence. But I am hyper vigilant. Like I said, I have to retrieve those archives, see when I survived a vicious surprise attack. I guess they tried to kill me or try to kill me, but as unsuccessful attempts, so it's better to channel the aggression and violence on sportsmanship. That's why me and Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border, we're gonna finance, of course, our way to be doing now, and that's why we're gonna have to left and right it, and gonna get it on the side to see, of course, all the domains where we got now to be, of course, in the representations of all our complex, plural civilizational complex, which we constitute, and where we're going to take it to the next step by the implementation of my Trinity of theories, and it's Go 49ers Go today. So that was a little bit of a rock and roll dictum. So now we're going to play some cadence. I'm just going to eat some more of this lettuce. That's what it's going to be now, of course, to get left and right in the middle. And we got to get it on that, and I'm going to get it on the left, and we got to get it in the middle to get us knowing, and we have a little bit of that to do, and that's where we got a little bit of consummation. We're gonna get a little bit of loving, Here's a great pass to the left, to the right. And we're gonna sing some cadence. We're gonna get it left and right, and that's what we have to be doing now, and that's what we're gonna get on the in the middle, and to get doing on that, to get left and right, and gotta get it on that, to get stretching a bit and to get formulated with the legs, and that's how we're gonna keep playing on the left and the right, and be here in the reality of my financial stress, but gratitude, And I was moody earlier, now I'm no longer moody, and that's what we have to be doing now to relegate ourselves where we have to get doing with the Trinity of theories, and of course that formulation where we have now to be relatively about, of course, in all the aspects where we have now, which is all coast to coast, ocean to ocean, two oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic, and we got the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3, and we got some more. Let's check some more. Oh, which game we're gonna check? Buffalo, New Orleans, Tennessee. I guess Tennessee, maybe not Tennessee. Yeah, let's check Buffalo. Buffalo. Let's check Buffalo. Let's see what's uploaded. If we're gonna check the recently uploaded Baltimore, we saw from the NFL channel. We're gonna get a little bit of that, and now we're gonna get on the left and the right and in the middle, and gonna get, of course, to us. Peace. No, This one we saw. I'm not pretty sure, but maybe we saw, maybe we didn't see. Okay, Buffalo it is then. Buffalo and Philadelphia Eagles. So Buffalo and Philadelphia Eagles, and that's where we're gonna rock and roll ended with a cadence, rock and roll cadence for the Dragon Army. We're gonna check a little bit more of that, and that's how we're gonna do on the go now. So it's gonna be left or right, and do some more of those biceps, and we're gonna get that biceps working out, and we're gonna be training and exercising, and that's how we're gonna have now to be here relatively above all our going stretches. Super important to stretch and work out, and fitness is something which I have been beginning for years and years and years now, and that is just something where we have now to develop ourselves in the conformances where we have now to be relatively about in all the domain where we got to be left and the right and in the middle, and to get it now to get on that situations where we find some joy and sweating. It's always good to get that sweat now, the domain we have to be now, when you get all that revelations where we got now, and you start your fitness journey today, and then you continue tomorrow, and you add a little bit of layer of sweat, you add a little bit of layer of joy, and a mass public-private partnership will require the NBA, National Basketball Association, NHL, National Hockey League, NFL, National Football, Dream MLB, and of course the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, and the NFL. That's how we're gonna get it doing for that, and that's how we're gonna have to get drilling for the left, for the right, and as a centrist, we're gonna be relatively well off Imperial Republic, where we're gonna constitute the great census for Canada and the United States, get rid of the border, and created two complementary cooperative covenant institutions, the Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League. The Imperial Integrated Dance League is going to be in parallel with the Dragon Army, which is going to be for total SSD, security, service, and defense, the Imperial Republic, which we're going to constitute of the 63. So now, let's say some states, Alabama, not in order, just Quebec, Canada, United States. Think of the 63 Canada, United States fused. Let's imagine that, or let's start with A, I guess A, or where there's no Z, there's no B, but British Columbia. The C, Colorado, Kentucky, Tennessee, British Columbia, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. We're gonna get it for Ontario. We're gonna get it for Nevada, Nebraska. We gotta get it for Nebraska, Ontario, and Quebec. We gotta give it for Colorado, for Tennessee, for South Dakota, for North Dakota. We gotta be for left, in the right, and in the middle. We gotta get it for Dakota, South and North Dakota, all the way to the Carolinas, Georgia, West Virginia, Rhode Island, New York, Iowa, Illinois, all the way to Manitoba, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, New Brunswick, Tennessee, Florida, gotta be Florida, West Virginia, Washington State, Montana, Mississippi, Maryland, Nebraska, Nevada, New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Gotta get it for the Texas, Tennessee, Louisiana, gotta be Louisiana, Arizona, put it up. Alabama and Hawaii. Hawaii, that's that one and H, sit hut, one and H. And we go for the Saskatchewan, and we go for Manitoba, and we go for Saskatchewan, gotta go for that Tennessee, and Texas, gotta be, where there's bees, there's honey, and we gotta get that Illinois, we gotta get Michigan, who's playing then again, and Maryland, and you know that Massachusetts, and you know that Maine no pain, and you know that with the grains, hey, with no pain, California, that Ohio, that Ontario, that Oklahoma, that Oregon, Oklahoma, Oregon, British Columbia, that Nebraska. That is the British Columbia, BC. Nova Scotia, gotta be Nova Scotia, sea to sea, ocean to ocean. And you know we got it. 63. We're about to fear forward at 63. Who's for it? Pledge allegiance, Legion's family, our family. Pledge allegiance, Legion's our family. And you know we got Rhode Island. And you know we got Ohio, Montana. We got that Alabama, Arkansas. We got that Kansas and Kentucky. We got that Connecticut. Kansas and Kentucky, Connecticut. Coast to coast from Canada. We got British Columbia. From the west to the east, we got British Columbia, that Alberta. We got Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Ontario, that Quebec. 4 states in Maritimes. Prince Edward Island, we got Prince Edward Island, we got Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. We got the Nunavut, then we got Newfoundland and Labrador, Northwest Territories on the floor, Yukon. We got the Yukon, and we got to carry on. We gotta carry on, left to right and in the middle. Left hand side, and that's a brittle. So we got Iowa, Illinois. We deploy Nebraska, New Jersey, Oklahoma. We got the sea, Colorado, California, Washington State, West Virginia and Virginia, North and South Dakota, North and South Carolinas. Yeah, North and South Carolina. North and South Carolina. That's what we do, so that you can see what it is with me and you. That's what we gotta get in the left and in the center, for the settle and the hut. That's what's set and hut, for you set up in the lot. And you know we got a buck for the left, for the player. Oklahoma, that's a Hoya. You can see what you be. Left or right in Tennessee, gotta get it sort of left, sort of right and set up set. That's the workout, that's the bet.